He grew up in the hood with a dream of being a rapper. Music was his first mic. Then God showed up and everything changed. Today, Mark LeBrun has built a digital movement that's reached over 13 million people and helped some of the most influential faith organizations in this country get their message online. He runs Digital Influencers Co. He's the founder of Hood Proverbs, and he will be the first to tell you none of this was his idea. This is his story. Mark LeBrun, welcome to the Outstand podcast.
Man, I'm so glad to be on here, bro.
Glad to have you. It's been a long time coming. We've been going back and forth, and I appreciate you taking the time. And we've had some great conversations. You've been one of those guys that, for whatever reason, we've gotten to have some good conversations, some deep conversations.
Yes, sir.
Talk about some things that maybe might not be normal to get into right away. But I think for me, that's how you've met someone that is going to be a good friend and someone that you can build with. So I've been waiting for this conversation, and probably won't be the only one
Oh yeah,
because
we got to do this more than
yeah,
once.
well, we'll do another one because we've had some amazing conversations that I wish were recorded, and we'll try to get some of that content in
Yes,
these
sir.
podcasts. But I'm excited to jump in today. But before we get into the podcast a little bit, I want to give everyone watching, listening, a little bit of background and context. So for those who don't know you, why don't you just give us maybe like a 60, 90-second version of who you are, what's your background, what's going on in your life today?
I appreciate you even creating that opportunity for me to share with your audience who I am. So my name is Mark LeBrun. I'm a pastor. I love Jesus unapologetically.
Yeah.
I run a digital marketing agency. What we do is we help businesses and brands scale their online influence. And one of the exciting things that I get to do is work alongside of pastors, leaders, nonprofits all around this country, helping them with making disciples online, attracting people, making money online. And just a fun fact, I also have my own platform where I got a large online community of over 300,000 subscribers. I love hanging out on my YouTube specifically, where I get to pastor and pour into and disciple, teach people the Bible. And these days, man, my heart and my focus is to bring the gospel influence in every sector of society, man. So if 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 we were sitting down at a conference and I just met you for the first time, Chandler, I would literally tell you, hey, my heart is to empower people to bring gospel influence in every sector of society.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And you've got, I mean, even in this short intro, you've got so much going on. Like you've
Yeah.
got your hands full,
Yeah, bro.
including being a husband and a dad.
Yes.
You've got, Hood Proverbs, you've got your agency,
Yes.
you've got your coaching, you've got, you're
Yes,
doing
sir.
okay. You're doing okay on YouTube.
Yes, sir.
I like you're like, someday you'll get at my level. Uh,
He's so funny.
how many, just like, I'm going to give you, you got to flex. It's because you've worked hard and you're great at it. What are you on? Like, what's your subs at on YouTube right now?
I know we're at 10 million, over 10 million views and over 70. Let me check. 72,000 subscribers. I don't even remember.
That's crazy.
72,000. I was on the trajectory. Because between you and I average about 1,200 new subscribers every month.
Wow.
But the
That's
last 6 months, and we'll probably get into that. I took a little break of a sabbatical off of. I put my gas off of the pedal
yeah.
to slow down intentionally. But we're at 72,000.
That's crazy. I mean, you got to. It'll probably end up benefit you in the long term, anyways. Because I feel like that stuff we get worried about taking a break, and then somehow it ends up getting
Yep.
multiplied, anyways.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about this before the business, before the brand, before everything you're doing. Um, Take me back to the beginning. Take us
Yes, sir.
back to kind of where it started. What was, those moments, the
Oh
pre
man.
media agency days.
Oh, if I could take you back before all of this, And I was just trying to be like what I saw on TV and what I saw in the community I grew up in, because I come from the hood. And if anybody knows what it looks like to be in the hood, I can tell you, you got police officers, you got gang influence, you got drug influence. And I was right in the heart, in the middle of that. And my parents, they did everything in their power to try to keep me away from that by bringing me to church. And yeah, I grew up in church, but to be honest with you, I lived like a heathen right after I came back from church. From smoking weed to trying to selling drugs to making music about that life. And what happened was I had an encounter with Christ. And this was 16 years ago now. I had an encounter with Christ coming out of high school. And that shifted the entire trajectory of my life. I went from the block to being called the preacher man and Bible man. And it blows my mind because honestly, bro, I wasn't trying to be a preacher. I wasn't trying to do none of that stuff, man. I just wanted to make music and have fun by, and make money the way that I saw illegally. But Christ had a way of reorienting my mind and my heart and giving me purpose and meaning in ways that I never had at the time. So, bro, my life was a wreck, man. It was a mess. And then God changed it and made it something beautiful, man. So I'm a product of the hood. And I still love the hood, which is why Chandler, you shared something earlier about Hood Proverbs. That's one of my special projects that I started about 8 years ago. And to be honest with you, I never really had the courage to really fully put my foot on the gas with that one, only because I knew with how I wanted to reach people from the hood, it would be very countercultural and almost anti the way we do church.
Mm. Yeah.
If you understand what I mean by that.
Yeah.
So there was a fear of judgment, or a fear of maybe the church is not going to accept it. And it is because I got a glimpse of that from some of my colleagues and the spiritual leaders in my community. Like they were not about that.
Hmm. So then, let me ask you, what shifted? What was the moment where you were like, you know what? I don't like, I'm going to do it anyways.
You know what shifted? I started reading my Bible and I started looking at the scripture through the lens by which God sees the people that I come from, where I come from. I stopped relying on old paradigms, relying on theological paradigms that how people view ministry and their ministry context. And I started asking the hard questions like, what would it look like to do ministry in the hood? And when I started seeing the fact that Jesus said, go into all the world, when that gave me so much courage, go into all the world and preach the gospel. That meant to me that the gospel belongs in places that have no gospel presence, that have no guy like myself, right? Like that really gave me the courage to do that. So that's what happened, man. I stopped trying to be like other people, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna be who God's called me to be, and I'm gonna do it the way God is showing me. So, digitally speaking, the media part of it is one aspect, but eventually it's gonna be something that will engage culture in a way to redeem the image of the hood, to bring alongside rappers and influencers and all these guys that I grew up, drug dealers. I want to give them a platform and I give them a space to share, to have a conversation around Christ and to see what the Holy Spirit does with that. Because at the end of the day, I know I can't save nobody. I can't do that. But the Holy Spirit can do a work if we create a space and we host the presence of God in spaces where the church is not present.
it's such an interesting when you look at the audiences of like for you specifically, right? Your what you would call your money making, which
Yeah.
is your agency,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Social media, which you're working with in most parts a lot of Christian businesses,
Hmm.
organizations, churches,
Yes, sir.
and you've got that audience, right?
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
and your part of your ministry then is the complete opposite,
Yeah.
right? I,
Complete.
I and I love that because I think
That's good.
and you're very unique because you are a pastor and a preacher and you've got a business and I mean you've got so many elements and I think for a lot of at least for me where I've been is and I feel like a lot of people too that they don't know how to separate maybe what's business,
Yeah.
what's the marketplace, where do I generate income, but then also ministry. I think sometimes that can be both that can be together, but I think sometimes it it isn't, right? Like for you, again,
Yeah.
it's and both. It's so
Yeah.
you
Both and
right?
yeah.
It's man, it's so interesting.
I think in a lot of ways, I feel like a lot of and this can get me in trouble for what I'm about to say. A lot of ways, I don't know if the pastors and church leaders that has gone before me, I don't know if they have given next generation leaders, young leaders coming up, emerging leaders, the courage and the space to do something radical or do something different. It's
Yeah,
almost like we're forced to do it the way ARC does it. Or, if you're going to plant a church, you got to go through a church planting organization and you got to go through assessment and all this type of stuff. And when I read my Bible, this might get me in trouble. I don't see a lot of that, right?
yeah,
I see Jesus who he found ordinary fishermen and called them to go and fish men.
yeah,
And with those 12 men, he changed the entire world.
yeah,
And I just feel like um I know for me when I was learning about ministry and learning about church and all this stuff that I know now, there wasn't a space to do it different, to do it based on your convictions. Now it is very important to have, older and wiser people that love you and care for you, that mentor you and watch over you and give you wisdom. But at the same time, I feel like God has a way of doing a new thing, and we can't sacrifice the new thing that God's calling us to do an old thing that's been working in the past. And I'm gonna tell you right now, the people in the hood, they're not coming to my church. They're not coming to my church. They're not
yeah,
coming to none of our churches.
yeah,
To be honest with you.
yeah,
So I've always asked myself, like, how can we create a space for hood people that come from the ghetto, low income communities, black and brown communities, right? And people that sell drugs and all this stuff. How can we create a space for them to be in a gospel centered community? And how
yeah.
can we bring church to them that is contextualized for their context? And I'm gonna tell you right now, there's not a lot of answers to that. Now, there are people working hard to work on that, but again, it is very rare. So that's where I'm at. That's my take on it, man. I don't mean to be a rebel rouser for
No,
somebody who might be listening.
got to be. I mean, where do you feel like that starts? Like where are you? Where does that start for you? What does that look like? I mean, obviously,
Yeah,
I think you, in your context, you understand it because that's where you were from, right? It's not
yeah,
where you are now,
yeah,
and
correct.
just in both sides,
Right.
uh, and but where does that, I because I think there would be, I think there's probably a lot of Christians, pastors, people like you and me, they're like, "Hey, I see the need, I see the problem, I see the issue. Good Lord, how do we even start that conversation?"
Oh man, that's a good question. I feel like it first starts with, what are you burdened about? What deeply breaks your heart? And then to be honest with you, for me, that's where it started. It broke my heart to see so many people being influenced by drugs. You're looking at somebody who used to be addicted to marijuana. And as you know, marijuana is a gateway drug. It can introduce you to higher grades of things. As a matter of fact, most people who I know personally who either passed away or overdosed on other drugs, they started with marijuana. And I happened to get out of that addiction by the grace of God. But what broke my heart is the fact that there is people going to drugs, to weed, to all these other dope, cocaine to get their fix. And I understand,
Yeah.
but they can get their fix somewhere else.
Yeah.
But sometimes they don't know that Jesus is available or their purpose is something that can help them get in the right track when it comes to filling that void that they're filling with drugs. They don't know that because nobody's never seen them and cared for them and created a space for them to encounter or to discover a new way of living or new method of mitigating pain. So that's where it starts from, man. It starts from that pain point. Like, how do I give a young man access to something that I didn't have when I was young? You know what I mean? And how do I make it real for that young woman or that young man so that they could understand it? Like they're not gonna understand. I go into hood right now with a suit and a tie and talking King James version and talking about, it was the stuff that I do and I love the King James and giving them the Hebrew breakdown and the Greek translation of a certain text.
Yeah.
They're not gonna want to hear that, bro.
No.
But if I bring Lil Wayne out there for a podcast and we talk about faith and culture, they might be interested
Yeah.
to hear about my Jesus. So for me, that's where it's at, man. And it's crazy you got me talking about this because I haven't really spoken out in public of what I really want to do with Hood Proverbs. Um,
Well, here we go.
when we get off this phone call, I got to share with you what I'm building, which will tremendously launch Hood Proverbs to in a way that will impact a lot of people, and it's gonna be something that is way beyond me because I can't do this by myself. I'm gonna need the right people to help me
Yeah,
build this thing. So you stir me up, Chandler.
I got you. Do you know Mayo? Um, God, his last name is so
Mayo,
well. Mayo.
Mayo.
He planted a church called Live in Atlanta,
Oh,
and
nice.
he is he's one of those guys that his story is crazy. He's probably in my life he's got to have one of the top 5 or 10 just of
Yes,
people
sir.
that I've met, testimonies that are just those testimonies that you hear that either they're
Yes, sir.
true or they're like that person's a complete liar because
Yes, sir.
you can't even you're like, "There's no way that's real." Like, there's no way that right?
Yes, sir.
I wanna you guys we need to connect you guys. I do wanna I wanna talk about this because you mentioned your parents. What was it for your parents? What made them go, "Man, we
Ooh.
we gotta we gotta do whatever it takes to, like, to make sure that we give this boy the
Oh man.
chance."
But first of all, shout out to my parents, man, because
Right?
they
Happy
did
Father's Day.
everything that they could to
Yeah.
keep me out of the streets. And my disobedient tail, I was very disobedient. I was not as respectful as I should have. I was very dishonoring, and yet they never gave up on me. They kept praying for me. They kept creating spaces for me to learn about God. Like my dad literally prayed every single night, and he would bring our entire family together to pray. My brothers and sisters, my mom, and I was exposed to that. And yeah, I didn't know what the hell that was at the time, but
Yeah.
I could tell that it helped shape and it helped bring a depth that I have now to why it's important to follow Christ. I think for my parents, because they grew up Christian and they know the importance of following God and have a relationship with God, they wanted to ensure that their kids, their children, was also rooted in the same faith. So
Yeah.
what they did was they created spaces for all of their children, for me to be a part of church experience, youth groups, all those type of things. And yeah, bro, I'll say this publicly, man. Although I didn't understand back then, I understand now why my parents did what they did with trying to expose me to Christ at an early age.
Wow. With your parents, what, you mentioned your dad gathering the family and praying. What do you like? What do you feel like was if you had to wither it down to like one thing
Mhm.
for your dad, your mom that was like, man, this is the one thing that just stuck with me, still sticks with me. It's something that I carry over, like for instance, I think for me, I was um I was raised in a Christian home, so I was always jealous when I would go to church and stuff, and everybody always had a really cool testimony, right? Like
Yeah.
drugs and prison and, you know, like all this stuff. And I was like, I don't have, I don't have anything like that. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that my testimony is the fact that I was raised by amazing parents who loved God, loved each other, who set an example. Were they perfect? No, but they they were consistent and they lived a life. They didn't just talk a life or preach a life. They really just the way that they live in still to this day
Yeah.
is encouraging and challenging. And so for me, I would say if I asked the question I asked you, if I asked myself, would be what's the greatest thing that made an impact on my life was wasn't a sermon,
Yeah.
was wasn't a summer camp, wasn't a prophecy, it wasn't
Come on.
anything like that. It was the fact that my entire life, every time that I woke up, no matter I swear what time it was, my dad, when I got up in the morning, he was reading his Bible and he was praying.
Wow.
And and that was that was the single greatest thing that he could have done. It was not a saying or a vision and values, whatever family crest statement. It was the fact that every time I woke up, no matter what time it was, and I walked out into my living room or kitchen, my dad was on a chair reading his Bible, on his face praying, you
Wow.
know, something. And that's, it wasn't going to church.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't seeing them serving at church, which they did.
Yep.
It
Yep.
it
I know
was
what you mean. Yep.
it was just that.
Yep. That's so crazy how there's so many similarities because I can recall throughout my childhood seeing the same thing with my father,
Mm,
either praying or reading the scripture, especially during the weekends where there was, nothing for him to do because he worked Monday through Friday, weekends where he relaxed. I literally remember him. either fasting and praying and reading scripture and getting us to be a part of that experience. And even though I didn't see the value in that back then, I most definitely see it now. So I'm grateful, man. And that's
Wow.
the power of being exposed, man. A friend of mine calls it the discipleship of exposure. Like when you are exposed to certain rhythms, spiritual practices, it can disciple you from afar.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Whew, man. We could I think we could we could do a whole podcast on that. I want to
Well,
shift gears a little bit. I want to kind of jump into kind of where you are now. You know, you've
sure,
built an you know your work. You built a massive audience, right? You're working on basically almost a 500,000 people, right? Your
yes, sir.
content's reached over 10 million people. Um, when was the point when you realized what you were doing and building? Like, oh, this is working.
Ah, 2020, bro, COVID.
Ah,
I'm gonna tell you right now, and I have to give a shout out to the one person. His name is Tyler. It was a young man I was discipling. I was at a coffee shop during COVID. All of us was quarantined, of course, guys. Y'all remember that. But I was about to start our session of discipleship, just doing life and reading scripture, talking about scripture. But before we started talking about that, man said, "Man, you should be on TikTok, man. The stuff that you share with me, the stuff that I know you of, it would really perform really well." And I'm looking at him like, "Young man, I'm not doing that." First of all, I
yeah.
already have an Instagram. I already have a Facebook. I don't need another platform. What are you telling me to get on, bro? Like, no. But he convinced me.
Wow.
Um, and that convincing turned into a conviction because I looked at his platform. I started scrolling through TikTok and I saw the opportunity of of people that were on there. There
Yeah.
was so much darkness on that
Yep.
platform. I'm like, man, this thing needs some light.
Mhm.
So I just said, you know what? Let me record my first video. Recorded my first video. Got like 50 views, 100 views.
The checks
That
started rolling in.
that 100 views
Brand
slowly turned
deals.
to 1,000 views, and then that 1,000 views turned into like 100,000 views. And
Wow.
fast forward, I remember getting 100,000 subscribers within 4 months, man.
That's
And I was reaching people simply by sharing biblical words of encouragement, and sharing my heart. And that was the best decision I ever made because I didn't know by my growth on my social media platforms, TikTok, because I basically took what I was doing and I
yeah,
also did it on all the other platforms. But I didn't know how that was inspiring other pastors and leaders in my community. And they started asking me, like, hey Mark, how are you doing this? Like, so I just gave them the game and I was just giving it for free at the time, Chandler.
of course.
And I started realizing, man, this is taking up a lot of my time. I'm meeting up with like 4 or 5 pastors every single week, and they're asking me the game. Let me start charging for this.
Yep.
And I started charging, and then it became a business 3 years later. So that's 2020. It became a business in 2023, 2024. I know it was 2023 or 2020. I don't even remember because COVID. I don't even.
Oh,
I feel
yeah.
like those years don't count. To
Oh,
be
there
honest with
it's there's just there's so much gray and blur and
you.
what was
What?
what and what happened and
A lot of gray and blur for me.
yeah.
But yeah,
I
that's
I love that I think what I love about that most, which 100,000 in 4 months, if you're listening to this, that's not
yeah,
normal and lower your expectations. I'm not saying that it can't happen, but
yeah.
don't think you're gonna start posting and that's gonna happen.
Oh,
And
not now. That algorithm has changed way.
I know. Oh, I know.
It's not
Believe
the
me,
same as 2020, and it
oh,
sucks that I got to say that, but
listen, I go hard and I still it's like whatever. But I love the fact that it was someone you were discipling,
young man. Yep,
probably younger,
yep,
and he was just like, "Hey," and the fact that you just listened, you're like, "Oh, all right." Like,
yeah, bro. I could have been prideful and not listened, but I listened. And he was crushing it. He had like hundreds of thousands of subscribers on TikTok, and sharing the Bible and sharing with people the things that I was teaching him. And I was like, wow, keep going. I like this. So yeah, man, this business would have never started if I never opened up TikTok. I really feel that way. I don't think I would have never been doing what I'm doing if I never opened up TikTok.
Which is funny because I don't even know, like, now, because I feel like YouTube is your main platform now, right?
Yes, correct. YouTube is my main platform now.
Yeah. Which,
I
yes.
personally don't really care about all the other platforms like that. I care about my LinkedIn a lot
Yeah.
now. I ain't gonna
Hey,
lie to you.
business owners, baby.
There we go.
That's the one thing no one talks about that I like. You get the right guys, I'm like, yo, let's talk about LinkedIn.
What?
Dude, it's not an easy platform either, which is
It's
kind of why
not.
I like it, because it's you have to do it. Makes you have your own playbook just for LinkedIn.
That's correct.
Yeah. Um, as you've built, your platforms, and obviously you're helping others, people, organizations build, as well as, you know, the ministry side, the business side, you got the family side. you know w- how have you stayed strong when it comes to the integrity, keeping the faith, listening to voice of God,
Yes, sir.
running this, and hey, staying locked in with, being prepped to teach and to preach? Like, how are you managing all that?
I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. Um, I think there are seasons where I have a great way of managing that, and
Mm,
then there are seasons where it's very difficult.
mm,
And I think the stage that I'm in now, not now that I'm a father of a 4-year-old. I've been a father for 4 years, and being a dad really changes your rhythms, your schedule.
yeah.
The way I used to do all of this production and recording and creating content, it has changed tremendously. I've had to learn systems, processes, and get in teams.
Yeah.
But for self leadership practices, I think for me personally, I have a deep conviction to please God. And that conviction is centered around the Great Commission. And if there's anything that keep me focused and keep me leveled, it is the fact that I want to fulfill the Great Commission. I want to please God. I want to be obedient, because
Yeah.
he literally charged us to go and make disciples.
Yeah.
And if I'm not making disciples, I automatically feel like I'm disobeying God. I feel like I'm in sin, actually. And that has kept me grounded. That has kept me like, hey, I need to be in my word. But it's one thing to be in the word, which this is a whole nother conversation for another day. But it's another thing to live the word.
Mm,
Um, I'm gonna continue to read my Bible, and I'm gonna continue to preach the Bible. But if I'm not living this thing, what's the point of this? What's the point? And for me, I try my best to study to show myself approved, and that studying myself to show myself approved, I feel like it needs to be exemplified through my life. So the people that are close to me, the people that know me, the people that care for me, they know, like, Mark he's not perfect, because I'm not,
yeah.
but he really loves God and he desires to follow God. My rhythms are not perfect. I'm not trying to make it seem like I'm perfect out here, but I ensure that at least 30 or an hour a day I'm spending time with God. And that's either through reading the scripture or through prayer. And
Yeah.
and that helps me to that fuels me to create content, to minister, to go out and speak and host workshops. And that fuels everything that I do. Am I perfect at that? Not even close.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's so true because it is. I think so many of us want a this is how you do it, but so much of it is rhythms and seasons,
Mhm.
and lives and things shift and change, and you've got to figure out what's important, what's the goal, and then build everything else, around that. Um, so we know you love God. We know you've got this, you've built this awesome platform, influence, relationships. You've got a heart for the hood, but you also,
Yeah,
you love the local church,
I
and,
do.
and that's a major part of what you're doing. Uh, What do you, as of 2026, when it comes to the digital online space, where do you feel like a lot of churches and pastors, Christians are what are they missing? What are they not getting? What are they not understanding when it comes to this, social media
Yeah.
influencer stuff?
I'm gonna preface by saying this. I don't think every church is doing what I'm about to say, but I see the majority of them. And I need us pastors and leaders to stop treating social media as if it's just this digital tool. And yes, obviously it is, but we have to understand that there are real people who have real problems, who are looking for real answers for what they're dealing with.
Mm,
And they are hanging out online searching for it. Like, for example, the first place I go to if I'm needing something new for my home, or if I'm dealing with something personally, I go and search the internet,
yeah,
TikTok or YouTube. And it's strange that I'm saying that, but that's just the reality of our life. Our life is so digitally infused and influenced that there's no way around it. And I feel like pastors and churches are still using social media as like a billboard, or almost like they're using it to announce what's going on in their church, or at their church. And then what's grown a little bit more popular for me, and it's also a frustration for me, is to only see churches repost their pastor's preaching segment. So
mm,
their sermon clips. And that is important. There's
yeah,
nothing wrong with that. However, if you're going to pull from your pastor's sermon clips, make sure that whatever is being said actually meets a need. It actually solves a problem. Make sure that the algorithm picks up on it so that it can push it in front of people. And what I mean by that is creating that content in such a way that it grabs attention and it holds attention. I think a lot of people just, pastors and church leaders and even some of the creative team, some of us aren't as intentional as we should be
mm,
on creating content that sticks.
mm,
It's almost like we're just posting just to post. There's no intentionality around it. So I think that's what's missing, man. We're missing the intentionality part. We're missing the fact that there are real humans behind these cell phones, behind these computers, and they're searching for something. Can we as the church be that answer? Can we give them Jesus in a raw, authentic form? And watch this, and pull them from the platforms and create some human connection. Because
yeah,
that's another element that we could do better in. I'm seeing certain churches do a lot better with that. 2819. Every time I see Philip Anthony Mitchell, whether he's preaching live, the first thing he says is, he welcomes all his digital disciples. That tells me he's very focused on
yeah,
the person behind the screen. He
yeah,
he feels them. He wants them to know that, hey, I know that you're here. I'm with you. I see you. I care for you. And that's what we have to be. We have to continue to be a people that cares for the human being behind these screens.
That's so good. When it comes to around that same vein, the opportunity, the importance, where do you think it sits when it comes to, whether it be YouTube, social media, web,
Ooh,
the online, like where do you put it at? Like if I, yeah, well, I'll put it like this.
yeah.
If, a pastor's talking to you and he's like, okay, Mark, I get it, but how
Yeah.
important is how important is this online social media stuff? How much should I actually care about it?
Oh, it's so important. It's so important. When I saw the latest stat, YouTube has over 70 billion daily active users on the YouTube Shorts platform. That's when I said, "Oh man, if we're not taking YouTube seriously,
Yeah.
um, we're losing an entire generation to being discipled by so many other things." I remember scrolling through the YouTube Shorts platform. They got a feed now, and I see tarot card readers, psychics, and I'm like, bro, and they got thousands of people that are watching their live stream, and I'm like, man, this should be a pastor. This should be Stephen Furtick. Imagine if Stephen Furtick said bump Sundays, which I don't want him to do that.
Yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah,
just
yeah.
want y'all to imagine for a second. Let's say he said, you know what, Monday through Saturday, I'm going to go live 1 hour a week on YouTube. Do you know how much interruption that he will bring to the forces of darkness? And he already has influence. And I know there's a lot of haters of Stephen Furtick. I'm not a Stephen Furtick hater. And I'm not saying that I endorse everything that he does. Um, but I
Well,
do
it's a
know
great
that God
analogy. I get
uses
what
him.
you mean.
Yeah.
Yes.
My thing is that all the platforms, including LinkedIn, there is opportunity for a pastor to bring the gospel influence in that digital platform, because people are hanging out there.
Yeah.
So and the statistics prove it. It proves it. So I say we need to double down our efforts. Am
Yeah.
I saying like hang out on social media 24/7? No. I'm saying be intentional with serving the people online, caring for the people online, entering into the conversations as well. Cause that's another thing that I feel, and I know I'm answering the question earlier.
That was good.
We don't do a good job with entering into culturally relevant conversations.
Nope.
Now, we do a lot of reaction videos, which I also do it as well.
Yeah.
And
Big.
nothing wrong with reaction videos, but can you give me, can pastors give a biblical, culturally relevant response to something that's hot,
Mhm.
something that's going on in our politics, something that we have to become people that are not just commentators, but people who are biblically literate, gospel literate,
Yeah.
and enter into these conversations to bring a Jesus centered focus to help bring up people back to what I would call human dignity, human flourishing. If we're leaving the world to do that, we're losing people. We're losing a lot of people, especially people like Gen Z, which I love Gen Z generation, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. And Gen Alpha and
Me too. Yep.
Gen whatever's after that.
Yeah, there's gonna be so many more that comes out. But yeah, that's where I'm at, man.
I love it. I got to give a shout out because there's one, and I know there are a lot of pastors, preachers, Christians out there that are doing what you're talking about.
Yes, sir. That's
I
right.
think one person for me who I grew up in this world, who is what he would, in my, for me would be, he's an older saint, one of the OGs. and this man is on TikTok live almost every
Go.
day, and that's my guy, Creflo Dollar.
Let's go.
I I
I've seen
can't
his lives.
I
Yeah.
I think I don't know if I can get on TikTok, especially in the mornings, because I think that's when he does it, and he is on there every single morning, and it's not high production, it's a
Nope.
terrible angle, but he's on
Yep.
there, he's talking, he's answering questions, and I'm
Yep.
like, "How hard is that?" Because he's probably doing quiet time himself, and then he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna spend the next 30 minutes or hour, and I'm
Yeah.
just gonna," and he's every day, and I see him all the time, and I mean, he's different generation, and I don't even think about him that much, but the fact, because I get on TikTok I get on TikTok every day,
Yep.
and most weeks I can't get on without his live popping up,
Yep.
and it's that simple, and I think sometimes we overcomplicate because it can feel complicated when it comes to social media, but it's simply just getting on and doing what you're already doing, and allowing people to enter into the conversation.
Yes, sir.
I love
Let's
it. Okay, I'm gonna hit you with some quick questions. Try to
let's go.
just off the dome, just as quick as you can, and then we'll end with two questions, and we're gonna let you get out of here. Fill in the blank. Social media is blank for the church right now.
It's the greatest evangelistic opportunity for the church right now.
Woo!
Period.
Say it again.
Social media is the greatest evangelistic opportunity for the church right now. Period. And that's and I could put I'll put my life on that.
I put my life on it too.
Period. Period, bro. And honestly, and I'll say this. I posted about this probably a year ago or 2 years ago. But it is a sin for a pastor or a church leader to not be on social media. It's a sin because our churches, and I know that's difficult, guys, for y'all to hear. Check the metaphor and the analogy I'm making.
Yeah.
Our people are literally being influenced by digital media every single day. You know, the stats has shown that people don't even watch live television no more.
No, I don't.
I don't either. I stream on Netflix, and guess where I get all of my information from for like news shows and TV, movies. I get it from social media.
Yeah, for sure.
So that goes to show you, man, this social media stuff is not going anywhere. And now that we have AI,
Yeah, it's gonna get even more. Yeah.
yeah.
Ooh, all right. The thing most Christian entrepreneurs are afraid to post, but should.
Ooh, most Christian entrepreneurs are afraid to post their successes and their wins. And I think it's because we think that it's bragging and it's
Mm,
boasting and it's prideful. But really, you're showing the fruit of your labor, and there's nothing wrong with that. You should do it because it legitimizes you, it builds your authority, and it's even something that I'm doing a lot more of, and I need to do more of, and I'm working on that. But I find that when Christian entrepreneurs share their successes, share what they're doing for certain clients or how they're serving certain clients and sharing those wins, man, it's a return. It brings a return on their investment. So we should do that.
that's good. One habit that has made you a better husband than you were 5 years ago.
Ooh. 5 years ago. One habit.
One habit.
I think the habit now is making sure the house is clean before we go to bed, especially the kitchen specifically. Making sure
Gotcha.
the kitchen is clean before we go to
Okay.
bed.
Okay.
That's the habit.
Hood or boardroom, where do you feel most like yourself?
The Hood.
The Hood. All
I'm
right.
starting and to be honest with you, I'm starting to feel more like myself in boardrooms as well. It took me a while.
Hey, you know,
It took
you
me a
gotta
while.
be all things to all men.
There it is.
One leader who shaped how you think about faith in business.
Oh, what? Oh man.
Just give me one shout out, one person.
TD Jakes. I have to shout him out.
All right. Bishop Jakes.
Bishop
All right.
Jakes, man.
Last question. What's a book, lesson, or idea that you think every person in this audience needs to encounter, needs to hear,
A
needs to
book or a lesson?
Yeah, what's a book, lesson, or idea that you think every person watching or listening needs to hear?
I'm gonna give you an idea.
Okay.
And it's something that is really dear to me. And it goes like this: you're brilliant, and sometimes we have this tendency of burying our brilliance because of what we've experienced in life, because of the things that we have gone through with people, with business. And if there's anything that I want you to walk away with is to never bury your brilliance,
Yeah.
because your brilliance will change somebody else's life. Your brilliance could be starting a company. It could be a ministry. It could be a book, but don't bury it and shrink yourself
Mm.
because of what you've experienced. There are lives that are on the line, and you ought to live out your brilliance so that the world could experience something great, man. Your brilliance will help greatness come out of the people that are connected to you.
Yeah, it's so good. Well, Mark, we are going to do another one, probably a
Yes,
couple more. And I want to say thank you sincerely so much for
yes,
your
sir.
leadership, what you do, for your encouragement,
I appreciate you, man.
consistency, for being on here. And if you're watching, listening, I will put all things about this man in the description to make sure that you can follow him, everything that he's doing across social media. If you are needing help with social media, whatever level, I'll drop his agency links and make sure
Thank
and
you.
go checking out what he's doing, because I promise you, he's doing a lot. He's great at what he does. I've learned, I've taken a lot of your stuff. I've stolen it. I've used it. It helped me as I'm leaning into this space and I'm trying to
Yes, sir.
challenge myself to do more. You're one of the guys that I see every day that I'm like, another post, I got to go post something else. I got to
Sir.
keep going. And you've been a great friend. And so I want to make sure that people are connecting with you. And if you are listening, make sure that you like and subscribe. We've got great episodes that are already out. We've got some great episodes that are coming up. You don't want to miss it. So make sure that you stick around for the long haul. We can't wait to see you on the next episode. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you